Welcome to Maker Mom, a podcast where I explore the stories of maker moms and the life they lead. Each week I will bring you the behind-the-scenes story of a new maker mom. I'm Katie Freeman, a furniture designer and content creator running freemanfurnishings.com and your host of the Maker Mom podcast. You can find Maker Moms hanging out in the Facebook community at Maker Moms and on the web at makermompodcast.com. If you love what you hear, please subscribe, leave a stellar review, and share this out with other maker moms you know.
Yes.
Yay! Okay. I figured it out. All right.
That was just me, overjoyed, talking with Ellen Smith and getting excited that I was overcoming some very initial technical difficulties with my very first interview for the podcast. So welcome to episode 2, officially, of the new Maker Mom podcast. And like I just stated, I interviewed for this episode Ellen Smith of Little Bear Furniture, and Bear is B-A-R-E. That's how you can find her on Instagram. But don't worry, I will include a link to her Instagram and website and all the good stuff in the show notes for you to check out for later. So why don't we go ahead and you can check out this awesome interview with Ellen and learn all sorts of things, especially about carving with an angle grinder. So here we go.
So why don't we go ahead and just get started with, if you could give a little kind of overview, introduction of yourself, like what you do, what you make, a little bit about your family, your kiddos.
All right. So I call myself a furniture maker,
Okay.
but I make a lot more than furniture, like way more. My son describes me as a wood artist, which he's 6, and that's like the sweetest thing. One day he told me that he wants to move to New York City and be a policeman, firefighter, wood artist.
Nice.
So the fact that he threw that into like his list of, dream jobs was pretty cool. But I have a bachelor's degree in sculpture, which is kind of how I fell into all of this. But my shop is in my garage, and I've got this really cool, this house was made for us. We found it and it was amazing. And there's this awesome finished room on the back of my shop.
Oh,
and
nice.
The shop is attached to the house through a mudroom, so it's separate. My kids can't get in there unless I let them. And I've got this really great space that is at home and has allowed me to do this from home, which I think is a rare luxury, and I'm really thankful. Especially since I really am doing this because I have kids, like not making because I have kids, but I get to do it from home and keep them. I mean, but when they were little, it was really great. Like I only worked during nap times for several years, and that was incredible. But my husband's also an artist. He's got an MFA in sculpture, and he works here in Bowling Green at Bowling Green State University. And that's how we ended up in this awesome small town. We moved here right after I graduated college 5 years ago, and I love it. It's a fun, very creative, community-based place. And so we're raising our family here. My business is really picked up here as in the community and part of the community. And I think that that's kind of what is driving most of my success. I mean, social media, yeah, but I think I'm trying to do all of the community things as well. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what about your childhood? I mean, did that lend itself to kind of help you become an artist, or?
I think so, but not in a typical way. My dad is a PhD in English, and my mom is a fundraiser.
Okay.
So they're both very creative.
Right.
People, but they're not makers by any means. And I never really took art. I always rearranged our house, and I built this, we could call it a desk, in high school, and it was lime green and pink, and it was, wow. It was by no means what I make now, but I think that I kind of had this hidden drive to make, and they never slowed that down. But like I said, I didn't take art lessons or class or anything.
Okay.
I'm by no means I mean, I think I posted a picture on Instagram of my dad's drill that's from like 1970 maybe.
Right. Yeah.
That's not his thing. So they're something, but they're great, and they support everything I'm doing now. And I mean, my mom comes up and takes the kids when I have a crazy schedule and help out as much as she can. So, but yeah, childhood wise, definitely was not creative. I was going to be a neonatologist. Like I was dead set to be a doctor, and I was fine. I had great grades. Like I was going to do it. And I'm like, nah, never mind. I'm going to be an artist.
So how did that switch happen?
I honestly think that it was realizing that I wanted to be a mom. Like I carried a baby doll on my hip with far past an appropriate age. Like it was kind of to the point where I was weird. I loved other people's children. I babysat and nannied for this family that forever, that were just a huge part and still are a huge part of who I am. And so I realized that if I went on this career path, if I had kids young, I wouldn't see them. And so I'm like, how can I do something that I love and then still, have children young? Because I wanted to be young with my kids, and I had my son when I was 23. And it's been amazing. I mean, he's been such a huge part of everything, and my daughter too. So I think that's really how art happened for me. And I met my husband in art. Right. So
that's a plus.
Helps.
Yeah. That's a plus for sure. So then how long have you been making? And I mean, did you get started with doing the sculpture degree? That's how it got started, or?
Yeah. So when I declared as in art, I went into graphic design because I thought I wanted to be an interior designer. And I still kind of love that side of things. I think that it inspires a lot of my furniture. But so you have to take one of each discipline as a class. And so I took 3D design, and I'm like, this is sweet. Like I love power tools. I'm going to do it. And so I switched to sculpture, and then I took a couple sculpture classes, was really loving and thriving, loving it. Knew that was where I was meant to be, like, glue on my pants, and like, you don't have to, it's just amazing. And so then they offered a furniture elective class, and I took it, and I made a coffee table out of sapelli, and it was 8/4 sapelli. And gosh, it's gorgeous. It's one of my favorites. My mom still has it because I can't I can't part with it. It was
right. Yep.
Furniture maker. But it was this 3-foot square top, and it was beautiful. And I matched the grain way more thinking, I think, than I would now.
Yeah.
This is me. This is my starting point. And I'm like, this is great. And then I built a bench, and that was the 2 big projects we did. I talked to my professor, and I'm like, hey, I want to keep making this kind of thing. And he's like, okay. And then I made a grandfather clock, and now I'm here. And my whole senior show was all functional work, and
cool.
Fair.
So what was the first time you picked up a tool?
Well, other than my really great desk that I built in high school, I think that it would have to then be college and 3D design. I know I used the jigsaw. Then I made this in sculpture, my first sculpture class. I made this giant fingerprint, it was oak plywood.
Oh.
And I had it was at least, it was 4 feet wide, probably 5 or 6 feet long.
Oh,
it's
wow.
in the Forensic Science Center. They have it, the Forensic Science Center at Marshall University. Very cool. But we had this beast of a bandsaw in the art warehouse is what they call the sculpture studio. And to cut that fingerprint, stood over in hours. And I still feel like I use my bandsaw in the same way. I use it way too often. A a lot of blades because I think it can do more than it can. But I think that was the big shift. And then we had a saw stop there. So I think that's what eased me into like big tools, but I didn't buy, when I bought a table saw, I didn't buy a saw stop. But I think those were the two big tools that got me into, I think, the confidence to use tools.
Okay.
That's, I think, something people back.
So was that intimidating at first, like with that bandsaw and the big figure print? I mean, I can imagine it. Probably it had to be a little bit.
Yeah, not as much as it should be, because I feel like my husband works with college students and like invincibility.
Yeah.
So I probably should have been more scared than I was, but I'm also such a meticulous worker at times that I was respectful, I guess, of the tool. But yeah, I think it's incredibly intimidating. My first time using an angle grinder, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, it's like my left hand.
Yep.
So I think that's definitely, it can get scary, but I think there's just this respect level with what you're using.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I've had with the angle grinder, some things go like flying into my gut, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, reminder, this is a power tool.
I got one time before I switched to like the heavy giant DeWalt angle grinder, I would fling so much dust that the switch would get stuck.
Yep.
And I would then like wrestle the cord to get it unstuck.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I thought I turned it off, and I plug it back in and I hadn't turned it off, and like spins across the driveway. So I've definitely gotten safer now. Okay, I gotta double check these and not let my switch get clogged. But
yeah, you were probably the first woman I saw using the angle grinder to carve. I've seen all these like Instagram accounts of all these men doing it, but I was like, hell yeah, there's another woman out there who's using to do the same thing.
Yeah, there's nothing like carving with an angle grinder.
Yeah.
It is the greatest stress relief. It is like this incredible power trip of, oh man, I love it. Yeah. Yes. I like glue as much as I can in waves so that I have like a week of carving that I just get to carve, and that's all I have to do.
That's sweet. Okay, so if you're doing that for a week, I might be veering off question topics here, but as a fellow carver person, like, how do you not, like, my right hand stops working after a while of like using the angle grinder that long.
I used to be the same way. I have freakishly strong hands now. I find it really strange. Although I feel like my fingertips are not as dexterous as they used to be, because I think maybe muscle mass. Like I don't have like I seriously do a lot of my kids' fine motor stuff with them because I know I need that. Like, they're like, oh, kind of spongy, especially when if I'm like carving a ton, my typing turns into gibberish.
Yep.
Because my fingertips are so done. But that's like, I work that way where I'm like, if I get on something, I'm going to do it until it's done.
Yep.
Like right now I'm redoing like my shop organization and making a million things. It's absolute chaos, but I'm like, I'm going to get it all done and I'm going to do it now. So.
Yep. Yeah, it was watching your account where I switched over to the King Arthur's tools because I had been using the Arbor Tech.
Yeah.
And like, I think there's a place and time for that stuff. But I just find like there's so much more flexibility with the King Arthur's tools. Like it's more, I don't know, like more fine-tuned finesse.
Yeah, like you can take a lot away, but you can also just take a little away.
Yeah.
I very briefly used an Arbor Tech, and and that was, this was, I think when I was pregnant with my youngest, so that was a while ago. And I hated I felt like I was being hit constantly with like needles. Like I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And yes, you can wear a face shield and you can wear overalls and you wear all this. I don't have time to like gear up.
Yeah.
I'm typically like, I run out and carve, blow myself off and come back in. I don't have time to do that.
Yep.
But I've always had the Galahad. I mean,
okay.
for I bought my first Holy Gal hat at 2000, like late 2009, maybe midsummer 2009. And I've been using one ever since, except for the brief window of like, oh, maybe I should try this because that's what university, and then like, no.
Yeah, I just got the Guinevere and used that to like sand out my last bowl, and I'm like, where have you been all my life?
No, I haven't really used, I haven't made a ton of bowls, but I love that tool. I made a cradle for my niece, and that's why I bought that. And oh my goodness, it's amazing. It does everything. And then I buy these like sanding mops and stick them in either side. So when I'm sanding like tiny things like toys or whatever, I just run them through the mop and then they're done. Like I don't have to hand sand. It's beautiful.
Okay, I need you to send me a link to the sanding mops.
Yes, I will. No, they're especially like spoons too, because you can get them all the way up to like 800. And
I wonder if that would make sanding my coasters like way easier.
Yes, it would. It would cut your time in like a quarter.
Okay, I need that like now.
Yeah, and just make sure they do like I my entire life is in 20-minute increments. And so I make sure that I don't overwork the tool. It's a powerful motor.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of get lost into making, and I've done this before, but it is one of my favorite things ever.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So I'll try to get us back on topic here. All right. So did you, when you started, because I know you said you kind of got into art because you wanted to be a mom and, and because of kids, did you intend to turn it into a business?
I think that I always had plans to be able to make money with an art degree, which I know a lot of people I graduated with are doing nothing with their art degrees. I mean, I'm sure maybe at home, but they're not their primary source of income. So I wanted to not be that statistic and to do it. So I think though, I didn't really, when I graduated, we moved immediately and we moved up here, and I didn't know exactly how to start because I left this giant, fully equipped warehouse of tools, and I came here with an angle grinder and a jigsaw.
Yeah.
I had, and a few clamps, like not a lot.
Right.
But I made my son, we called it the Little Bear chair because we called him Little Bear. We call him Little Bear, which is my name, but I changed the letters. And I made that, and it ended up being this really cool form. And so then who was it? I guess it was one of my mom's colleagues wanted one, and then somebody else wanted one, and another person, and I'm like, okay. And again, full out jigsaw carving. I didn't even have an Orville sander. I had the DeWalt palm sander, and I pretty much worn the rubber pad. So that's like what I started, and then my sister found out she was pregnant, and so I love Sam Maloof. Like he incredible maker, and he made obviously not anymore, he's dead, these incredible cradles. And I always thought, I'm like, I want to make a cradle. I think I probably, when I was thinking it, thought I wanted to make one for my own child, but nobody has time for that.
Yep.
So especially I don't do pregnancy well, so I knew that wasn't going to be a thing. So I made my niece this cradle, and it was huge. And that's when I got the Guinevere, and I did it with what I had. Eventually my dad got me a bandsaw for Christmas he saw me slaving over the jigsaw.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, well, I don't need an excuse to not make big pieces. Like I can keep. And so I did. And we have this festival here called Black Swamp, which I built up to all summer, especially like a few weeks getting into it. And so the second year we lived here, I decided to do that. So I applied. The pictures I applied with were awful. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how I got in. Like I draped a gray sheet against my dining room wall because I didn't have equipment.
Right. Yeah.
I hadn't thought through the process of how to do it yet.
Right.
And I magically got in. And so I'm like, this is great. Like I'm going to do this. And I started all these big plans and all these tools. And I glued up Little Bear chairs, and I still had my work from my senior show, thankfully, because then I got pregnant. And I have I'm the 1% of women that have hyperemesis gravidarum the entire pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So from about 4 weeks until I had my daughter, I threw up at least 6 times a day. And
not fun.
Yeah, no. And so both of my pregnancies ended with PICC lines and home health IV.
Yeah.
Awful. And it shuts down. And because of that, with both, I had horrible postpartum depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so my first black swan, I was pregnant, leaving to go vomit. And still, I got second place in the show. And I'm like, oh, okay. So despite all of these horrible things that are happening,
right.
And despite the fact that I had half the work that I planned to have, and my husband had to stand chairs for me because I couldn't stand up any longer. And, all of that, people saw that what I was making was cool and different. Mm-hmm. And so, I sold a fair amount of stuff. But then getting an award in the middle of all of that was okay, this can happen. Mm-hmm. And so it did. And once I had my daughter, she was an easy second baby that slept all the time. And my son at that time was really cool. He was just he's still really cool, but he would hang out on the floor in the garage while she's napping. And I was able to work all the time once I was able to get back up and go. And so it really pulled me out of depression a lot faster with her. I was able to see my worth, not only as a mom and person, but as a contributing member to my family and to my community and my community economics and all of that. So my next black swamp, I had her, nursing all the time instead of vomiting all the time. And I rocked it. And this is what I'm this is it. This is how I'm going to do it. And we bought this house shortly after that. And we're just, this house is everything. It's why I get to do it. It's amazing. And they're awesome. My kids are awesome. And, and my husband is fantastic and has facilitated so much for me to chase my own dream.
That's awesome.
Wild ride. But,
Were you making when you had your son? Do you feel?
I took a year off from college.
Okay.
I didn't intend to. So I thought that I'd be able to be in school this semester. He was born in December. So I thought I'd be able to work, up until the weekend. I ended up medically withdrawing because of hyperemesis early October. So I barely made it 4 weeks. And which was fine. And I had planned to take off the spring semester to have him. So he was born in December. And then I had this great time at home with him. I think that not making I think if I had started making sooner, I would have not suffered as much on the postpartum depression side. I would have been able to, had a reason to really leave the house, and that kind of thing. But I'm so thankful for the time I had at home with him and getting to, really experience motherhood in that state. But I went back to school when he was 9 months for my last year of school, and I paid other students to keep him during classes. He came with me a lot. My husband would work flex hours around my studio schedule, and my mom lived in the town I went to school. So she would keep him, and it was this whole we had this a bunch of the 3D major kids had this joke that people say that it takes a village to raise a child, but really it just takes an art department. We passed him around, and I have pictures of him with headphones on in the shop so that he doesn't, it was great. And he's always been part of it. I have great, him standing my final pieces, and he's this tiny little thing. But so I was making before him.
Okay. So how do you now manage being an active mom, maker, and business owner?
I don't know. I don't know that I do. I think that I try to do all of the things.
Yeah.
I try to make a million things in my shop at a time. I have made and am making homemade Halloween costumes. You know, we have bats all over our ceiling because they want to make Halloween decorations.
Mm-hmm.
I throw the birthday parties and I build the the Christmas float for the school, and I do soccer practice and ballet, and now we're into hockey, which is a whole new. So I try to do it all. I don't always do it all. And then, so I think that, okay, so the way that I manage is that I accept when I can't do it all, but I try to do it. So, I mean, my house is a wreck sometimes, and it's okay. My kids think that appetizer dinner is this huge delicacy, but really it's a desperate attempt to put like all of the food group on a tray, and but they love it and they think it's some huge treat.
I might have to steal that idea because
it is incredible. They think it's amazing. I think they think they're at like a cocktail party or something.
Yeah.
Cold cut. I'm like, I did roll up that piece of ham very nicely for you. But it works. I mean, that's kind of how we do it. And I take their cues because I easily get lost in the shop to where I want to be out there as much as possible, especially when I'm like really excited about what I'm making or if I'm on a deadline. But I take their cues. There are times where I can see if my daughter is extra whiny and clingy, I know I'm working too much. And my son, he's pretty point blank about it and is like, Mom, I want to do this. I'm tired of you working. But their cues tell me when I'm overdoing it on that side of things. And so that's hard to because I love what I do, but I love them more. So, but they also do, like, I think that one of my big breakthroughs the past couple years is having stuff for them to do out there. And so I'm lucky. We have this obnoxiously large driveway that I think that whoever poured it just hated cutting grass because we have a tiny spot of grass in this huge driveway. So I park across the end of the driveway, open up my shop doors. I'm in the shop, they're riding bikes. Or my son has a drawer in the toolbox with his glue, his like tiny spring clamp, and just a bunch of wood that sometimes I would use, and I do kind of raid his stack a little bit. He just pulls it and then he makes his own stuff. And Eloise too, she likes painting more, so she just paints on top of scraps. But I think including them out there not only, gives me more time, but it gives them this like self-worth out there. Like, this is so cool. So
yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. What would you say is your favorite part about being a maker?
The challenge. Like the challenge of making a physical piece, especially out of, I very rarely draw things out. So I have this mental image of what something's going to look like, and then making it, that's a ton of fun. But also making things that other people are going to think is cool is a fun challenge. Something that I can sell is a challenge. Something that actually functions. Like, for instance, all of the time people ask me, like, other woodworkers are like, I hate making chairs. Like, why do you love making chairs so much? I'm like, it's a challenge. Like, I'm a very competitive person, and I think I'm constantly competing against myself in making whatever I can try to make. So, and have it stay together and not fall apart.
Yeah, that would be key. So then what's your favorite part about being a mom?
Okay, that's a hard one. That's really, I don't know. That I get to shape and inspire my really cool kids that are completely cool on their own to be humans that are strong and kind, and that I get to let them chase whatever dream they have and be part of their ride, because they're on my wild ride, and I love that I get to be part of theirs. So
awesome.
But I think we have such this huge responsibility as moms to make you know, smart kids and, you know, hard workers, but also just like nice and kind and accepting children. I think that my favorite part of this is that I get to hopefully help the world with like improving my kids' lives and making sure that they're kind before they're anything else.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I think that's my favorite part of being a mom.
Okay. Have you faced any challenges or maybe just struggled with anything in general as far as being a woman in a more male-dominated field?
Oh, yes. I could go down a very deep rabbit hole here. I think my biggest challenge with it is confidence, and not only having confidence, but controlling confidence. I know I can make just about it. And I know what I make, it will be as good as, if not better than, what a man could in what I'm doing. I think that it's taken me a long time to get to that point because I am constantly questioned. You know, oh, like if I'm at a store, luckily my Home Depot knows me well now. And we have a Toledo plywood and they're great and they know who I am and it's fine. But I cannot tell you how many times it's like, oh, are you buying this for your husband? No, I'm not. Like, no, I'm buying this for me. Like, no, I'm not. And the guys at Home Depot now know that I can pick up a 4x8 sheet of plywood by myself. I think they're starting to be able to judge my face if they should help me or not. I'm going to dig through a pile of plywood to make sure it's straight. Like, I'm not going to take a piece of junk on the top. And I don't get my like furniture plywood as much from them anymore as I do from Toledo plywood, but still, like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to tell you exactly where to cut and I'm going to make sure you're going to cut it right. And like, these are the things. And I think that I've had to get the confidence to do that, to not feel like I need to be quiet and let, you know, men do men's work, because it's not like, it's not a hard. So, and I also have people that I'm curious, and someday I'm going to do an experiment to where, like, okay, so setting the stage at festivals, people don't understand. They're like, oh, you're the artist? I'm like, yeah, I'm the artist. And I want to wear like a t-shirt that says like, I'm the artist, like with like thumbs up, like pointing at my face. But my husband is never in my booth, and he is not in my booth by choice. Like, I've never said anything to him, but he doesn't like that when someone walks into my booth and wants to ask a question, if he's in there, they immediately go to him to ask the question. Like, immediately. And it's frustrating. So he's literally never, I don't see him for the entire weekend. He's typically with the kids, or he'll be like off to the side and I can watch him watching, and it's sweet. But also it kind of stinks because I don't get to enjoy you know, the experience with him because he doesn't want the credit because he's not doing it. And I've had people come in and ask like, oh, you do all this? I'm like, yes. And then most recently a man said, well, what does your husband do? The dishes? And I was like, well, actually we both do the dishes, and like, this is my thing. So like, I have to hold my tongue. And I get messages and comments that I fight the urge to retort, and like, I'm not going to engage in this. And most of the time I delete them. Messages, I just don't accept them. But I think that the whole mansplaining thing, yeah, it's a reality. But I also have these incredible men in this field. Like my neighbor, Tom, awesome dude, woodworker. He has never once belittled me for what I'm doing. And he's an older guy and retired and is in awe of what I make. And if I need a giant clamp, he loans it to me. And then our local woodcraft, it's a husband and wife that own it, and she's amazing. But all of the guys there are so great and so encouraging, and I've never felt, you know, belittled by them. Or
I think I've found, like, if it's you know, a man who also does woodworking or who is also a maker, like, they instantly respect you just as a maker, not because of your gender, but it's like the outside people, right? Like you said, the people at like Home Depot or, I mean, I've been asked several times, like, you know, do you have somebody to help you with that at home? Or do you know how to use that tool? And it's like, no, I got it.
Like, what do you mean, do I do all of it? Yes, I do. What other choice is there? I had a full staff. I don't, sorry.
Right.
I think that, like, one of the things that I try to do as, like, because I do get frustrated when there are ridiculously unrelated comments on like my page or other women's pages or even other men's pages, to where I like to then like comment back with something that's completely not related to what they're saying, but related to the post. So someone sent me a message that said that I looked just like this or I was just as beautiful and looked so much like this other maker. And I'm like, eye roll. But I took the opportunity and I went to her page and I looked at it and I responded to him, wow, she makes incredible stuff. Thanks for linking me to her profile. And just like, yeah, I'm not going to engage with what you're saying. Like I'm going to engage with the positive side of it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's always going to be people that think, you know, a male doctor is better than a female doctor. I think that that's just where we are. But I also know that, you know, my little hands and, you know, petite frame can carve for 6 hours straight, and I can lift a lot of weight, and I'm, you know, physically and mentally capable of making whatever I want to make. And it has, you know, nothing to do with my gender. It has everything to do with my mind. So someday maybe people will understand that. And I think that it's, you know, giving us this opportunity with our kids to show that, you know, woodworkers aren't just men. And you know, like, I want my daughter to shatter every glass ceiling she can, whether it be in making or like rocket science. I want her to know that she is as valuable as any other person in this world. So I think that's the challenge. Confidence. Totally.
Okay. So what, and I know you've kind of touched on it a bit, but what do you want your kids to learn most from, I think, from both watching you be a maker, but also watching you have it be a business as well?
I want them to learn that, well, I want them to know two things. One, that I'm sacrificing a lot, obviously, for them. And so as much as I wish I could just play all day long with them, I want them to know that I'm doing it. Like, I'm not playing for that one round of skip bow because I got to go do it. And they're going to be, like, I want them to know that it's not because I don't want to be with them. It's because I want to build a better future for them. But I also want them to know that they can do anything, and they can do anything with what they have. And they don't have to, you know, if they don't have to be some mold of a, you know, this American dream. They make their own dream. It doesn't have to be anything other than what they want, and then they have to work really hard for it, because things don't come easily. And if they do, then they're not worth having. Like, you have to work for what you want to do. And for this business, that's all I do. And I think that they see that. And, you know, if they become a firefighter, policeman, wood artist, they're going to have to work for it. And I think that they know that because they see how hard I work and my husband works. So.
Okay. So last question I usually like to ask is, you know, if there was another mom out there who wanted to start making, and I classify that not just as like woodworking, but, you know, any form of making, but they were hesitant or maybe had that lack of confidence to get started, what would you say to them to maybe help get them over that hurdle?
I posted about this the other day, but I don't remember, I read this quote, this Theodore Roosevelt quote that said, it was like, do what you can with what you have where you are. And I feel like it tells so much of a story in what I've done, but also what can be done, because you don't have to have a sewing machine to sew. You have to have a needle and thread. So you don't have to have a table saw to make a table. And so I think that my advice would be to start small and to explore your dream and build upon what you have and what you can make with what you have. And then when you make it, you'll learn and you'll teach yourself that you can do more, and involve your family in what you're doing. I mean, if you can make an area for your kids to be with you, whether it be a sewing room or a wood shop, or, I mean, I guess it would be kind of hard in like a metalsmith shop,
right.
Sparks, but like, I think that involving your family in your whole process, and my kids stamp my bags, like there's something for everybody, and don't do it alone, because it's lonely, it's harder, and you know, it's definitely not as fun.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Okay. So how can people find you on all the social media if they want to follow along with you?
So I'm most active on Instagram and most transparent on Instagram. Try to be pretty real with whatever's going on, and that's at Little Bear Furniture, BARE. And I do have my Facebook is also Little Bear Furniture, and my Instagram's tied to that. But I do a lot more of my like sale posts, things I'm selling, or through Facebook. Definitely Instagram is more of my journey of woodworking and business ownership and motherhood. That's all kind of on there. I do occasionally link things that are for sale, but I've had more success selling on Facebook than on Instagram. And then my website, I try to stay up with. I'm not the greatest at that, but it's www.littlebearfurniture.com. I occasionally post blogs and do have an email subscriber list. Someday I'll actually get videos on my YouTube channel. I think I have 2.
You do, and they're great, FYI. Like, I'm like, this needs to be out there. Like, you show what it means to be like a maker.
I was thinking that. I'm like, I feel like my life has gotten even more crazy. I need to record it now. But yeah, I think that I do. I love those videos. They're my favorite. I had to bust out the old dinosaur Mac to use the exact same song because the computer doesn't have it. But yeah. And then I have like locally for the Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan, I guess I could even say Eastern Indiana, because it's not that far. I have a couple local events. I've got Bowling Green does this fun downtown festival now, and they're doing a fall one. So that's October 19th. That's Friday. I teach local workshops, which is my new thing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I have one of those on the 20th of October. And then I do this really cool, worth driving for open house. I did it last year. It was a big success because I got to meet people and I didn't have to leave my house, which is a total bonus. But at my shop, it's hypothetically is going to be clean. And we have food, and I've done a lot of the work in our house, like a lot of it. Built a breakfast bar, done a lot of stuff in my kids' rooms and our bedroom. And so I show all that off because I do that too, like on, I mean, I paint murals, which is weird, but so I do that, and that's November 10th from 3 to 7. And it's just this fun holiday shopping event, but also like I get to show off my tools and my space and talk to other makers, and the guys all from Woodcraft came down last year, and we just had a great time. And yeah, it's just like a big party kind of. So that's November 10th. And then I'm doing a little my favorite place in Bowling Green is our coffee shop. It's called Grounds for Thought, and this year I'm participating in their Christmas boutique. And so I'm gonna have like I hoard all my scraps all year to make ornaments and like little toys for Christmas. So that's what my life is about to become. But yeah, so I'm going to do that in December 8th. So
Awesome.
I got a lot coming up, but in a good way. And I turned 30 in November. So that's another big, scary thing that's coming up.
Oh, it's not scary. 30s are the best, believe me.
I bet. I honestly feel like I'm already 30.
Yeah.
I think it's just life.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today and share your story. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for including me.
Yes.
It's going to be really great. I can't wait to listen to all of them.
Yes, I think it's going to be fun.
Man, that was such a fun interview to do. Ellen and I talked for a little over an hour and a half. I actually only had to let her go because I had to get on and do another interview. I think we probably could have talked for at least another half hour or so, getting all kind of geeked out over all things carving, angle grinders, and King Arthur's tools. But anyways, I digress. So Ellen, I think, was a great interview. She's really rocking it as a mom and as a maker and as a business owner. And I have more of those interviews to come. So that's the end, a wrap for episode 2. Catch you next week. Thank you for listening to the Maker Mom podcast. You can connect with the Maker Mom community in the Facebook group page Maker Moms. And remember, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please subscribe, leave an awesome review, and share this out with other Maker Moms you know.